My coworker Daniel had 10 credit cards. 10. And when he told me that, he didn't sound embarrassed. He didn't sound desperate. He sounded proud, like he was talking about something he'd figured out before the rest of us. Daniel wasn't reckless. He was sharp, good at his job, good with people. We worked together for 5 years. And somewhere in that time, he fell into something so cleverly designed that he genuinely thought he had mastered it. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you the actual math on what Daniel was paying and why it stopped me cold when I worked it out. But first, you need to hear how he explained it to me because in his mind, none of this was a trap. It was a strategy. We'd worked together for 5 years. Lunch breaks, coffee runs, the kind of office friendship that grows in small pieces. One day, money came up and he pulled out his wallet. It was, and I'm not exaggerating, like an accordion. Card after card after card. "Daniel," I said, "isn't one enough?" He laughed, not nervously, confidently. "You have to know how to use these cards," he said. Then he explained his system. When the minimum is due on card A, card B covers it. When B comes due, C steps in. 10 cards feeding each other month after month. In his mind, he was a juggler keeping 10 balls in the air. And from the outside, it really did look like control. Nothing had crashed. No collector was calling. Every card still said, "Payment received." I asked him once how it even got to 10, because nobody walks into a bank and asks for 10 credit cards. It doesn't happen in one day, and his answer was almost boring, which is exactly the point. The first card was just a card. Everybody has one. The second came with a 0% offer in the mail. Move your balance over, pay nothing for a year. Smart, right? The third was a store card because the cashier offered 10% off that day's purchase and it took 90 seconds to sign. The fourth arrived pre-approved. He didn't even remember applying. And after 4, he told me, the rest just sort of showed up. A better rewards rate here, a higher limit there. Each one on its own was a reasonable decision. Each one made sense in the moment. That's the thing nobody tells you. You don't decide to have 10 credit cards. You decide to have one 10 separate times. And every single time there's a discount or an offer or a limit attached that makes saying yes feel like the smart move. Then he told me, almost proudly, that one of his cards had a $10,000 limit. He said it like he'd won something. I remember thinking, quietly, that a credit limit isn't money you have. It's money the bank is hoping you'll owe. I didn't say that out loud. I just asked where it all actually went. His answer was ordinary. School fees, rent, the car, groceries, utility bills. Nothing flashy, no yacht, no casino, just life. Running on credit at credit card rates. In his words, before you know it, the limits are just gone. 10 cards, just over $50,000 in combined debt, all close to maxed. And he was smiling when he told me. Here's the image that stuck with me. Daniel was like a man in a rowboat with 10 small holes in the bottom. One bucket, bailing water from one end, pouring it into the other, moving fast, sweating, busy. And that's the part that got me. Busy and stuck can look exactly the same from the outside. Every card got its minimum on time. His credit score held steady. Banks kept sending him offers, which he took as approval. Nobody knocked on his door. From where Daniel sat, the machine was running smoothly. It just never occurred to him to ask whether the water level was actually going down. And I don't think that's an accident. Have you ever actually looked at where the minimum payment sits on a credit card statement? It's right there, printed clean and clear, usually near the amount due. A small, manageable number. The full balance is on the statement too. It has to be. But the statement isn't really asking you to look at it. The design of the whole document points your eye at the smallest possible number and quietly suggests, this is what's expected of you. Pay this and everything is fine. And technically, everything is fine. That's what makes the minimum payment so effective. It's not a trick in the sense of a lie. Pay the minimum and you are officially a customer in good standing. No penalties, no phone calls, no red letters. The minimum payment isn't really a payment plan. It's an anesthetic. It doesn't treat anything. It just makes sure you never feel enough pain to change what you're doing. Daniel had been comfortably numb for years, and he'd mistaken the numbness for skill. Oh, and here's the strangest part of all of it. Daniel's credit score was good. Genuinely good. He mentioned it that day like a report card, and he wasn't lying. 10 cards, all paid on time, every month, for years. As far as the scoring system is concerned, that's a reliable borrower. The score doesn't ask whether you're winning. It asks whether you're predictable. And Daniel was the most predictable customer a bank could dream of. So, the one number he could check anytime. The one number the whole world told him to care about, kept telling him he was doing great. His score said healthy. His statements said current. His mailbox said pre-approved. Every signal the system sent him said, keep going. There was exactly one number telling the truth, the total across all 10 cards. And it was the only number nobody ever printed in bold. A quick honesty check before the numbers. I don't have Daniel's actual bank statements. Nobody outside his bank does. What follows is an illustrative calculation based on how cards like these usually work, not an audited figure. The exact numbers change by card, rate, and country. But the shape of it is real, and that's what matters. $50,000 spread across 10 cards at around 24% a year means about 2% a month. 2% of $50,000 is $1,000 every single month. Before Daniel buys a single grocery, before a single school fee gets paid, interest alone runs about $1,000 just for the privilege of owing. Minimum payments usually sit around 2 to 3% of the balance. Across all 10 cards, that's roughly $1,250 a month. Of that, about $1,000 goes straight to interest. Only around $250 actually reduces what he owes. So he's paying $1,250 and making $250 of progress. But a single month is easy to shrug off. So let me run it for a full year, because that's where it stops being abstract. 12 months. Daniel pays $1,250 every month. Never late, never missing. That's $15,000. Leaving his account over the year, $15,000. That's a serious amount of money. That's someone's annual salary in a lot of the world. And after that entire year of perfect, disciplined payments, where does his debt stand? It's gone from $50,000 down to roughly $47,000. $15,000 paid. $3,000 of progress. The other $12,000 didn't reduce anything. It just left. That was rent. Not on his apartment, on his debt. Now, imagine doing that for a second year. A third. Every year, $15,000 out, $3,000 of progress, $12,000 gone. That's the treadmill. It's not that it never ends. It's that it's designed to end as slowly as possible. Then I let the calculator run out further to what he'd actually pay back over the life of it at that pace. More than $110,000. He'd end up paying back more than $110,000 to cover $50,000 of spending. I read it twice. Then I put the phone down and didn't say anything for a while. And that number doesn't even include the cost of the trick itself. That rotation he was so proud of, taking cash from one card to cover another, is what banks call a cash advance. Every time he did it, there was a fee up front, usually 3 to 5% just for the move. The interest rate on that money was higher than on normal purchases. And unlike a regular purchase, there was no grace period. The interest started the same day. So every month, Daniel was paying a fee and premium interest just to move his debt in a circle. He wasn't juggling, he was paying admission to juggle. And here's the question I couldn't stop turning over afterward. What happens if he just stops? Not stops paying, stops rotating. Because that's the cruelest feature of a system like his. After enough years, the rotation isn't a choice anymore. If the minimums across 10 cards add up to more than what's left of his paycheck each month, then card B paying card A isn't a strategy. It's a requirement. The juggling can't stop, because the moment it stops, a ball hits the floor, a missed payment, a penalty rate, a phone call, which means Daniel wasn't really managing 10 cards. The 10 cards were managing him. His system had quietly crossed the line from something he did into something he had to do. And I don't think he ever noticed the moment it crossed, because from the inside, both of those feel exactly the same. Busy hands, payments made, everything, officially fine. A few weeks later, I mentioned Daniel's system to a friend of mine who'd spent a few years in retail banking. She laughed not unkindly and told me something I still can't shake. Inside the industry, there's a name for customers who pay their card off in full every month and never owe a cent of interest. The kind of people you'd think the bank loves most. They call them deadbeats, freeloaders, basically. People who use the network, collect the rewards, and generate almost no profit. She told me, without even thinking about it, that she was one of them. One card, paid in full every month, a couple $100, back a year in cash back. To her, that was just how a credit card worked. She'd never once carried a balance past a due date in her life. I asked her how that was even possible. How the same product could cost Daniel $1,000 a month and pay her a couple hundred a year. And she explained something I'd honestly never thought about. The grace period. When you buy something on a credit card and pay the full balance by the due date, you typically pay zero interest on that purchase. Nothing. The bank essentially lends you the money for a few weeks for free and even pays you rewards on top. That free window exists on Daniel's cards too. Every single one of them. He just hadn't seen it in years because the moment you carry a balance from one month into the next, on most cards, the free window closes. Interest starts running on everything. So her card and Daniel's card might have come from the same bank, with the same logo, the same rewards program, the same fine print, but hers was a payment tool she used for free. His was a loan he never stopped paying for. And I should be honest here, because I used to think I was safely on the other side of all this. One card for many years, paid in full every single time, never carried a balance, never gave the bank a cent of interest. I was, by every measure I knew, exactly the kind of customer my friend had just described, a deadbeat and proud of it. Then one month, I paid what I thought was a full statement balance, the number right there on the screen. The next month's statement arrived with an interest charge on it, small but there. It turned out I was short by 25 cents, not even $25. 25 cents? I called, half amused, thinking it had to be a glitch. It wasn't, because the balance hadn't been paid in full, down to the exact cent. The bank didn't just charge interest on the missing 25 cents. It charged interest on the entire statement balance, calculated as if I'd been carrying the whole amount all along. The person on the phone was polite about it, sympathetic even, but sympathy isn't a setting in the system. Many years of paying in full, undone by 25 cents. I remember thinking, surely someone could look at that many years of on-time, in-full payments and tell the difference between falling behind and simply missing a rounding error. But that's not really how the system is built to think. There's very little room in it for almost. For a small mistake that was never really about the money at all. Daniel's story played out over years. Mine took one overlooked line on a statement, and the rewards, the part that makes people feel clever, collapse the second you carry a balance. Say Daniel's cards paid him a generous 2% back on everything. On $50,000 of spending, that's $1,000 in rewards. Sounds nice, except he was paying around $12,000 a year in interest to get it. He was spending $12,000 to win one. The points, the cashback, the little congratulations emails from the bank. For someone in Daniel's position, they're not a benefit. They're decoration on the invoice. And that's when I realized something uncomfortable. If the ideal customer in the bank's eyes is the one who never pays interest, then Daniel was the opposite, on purpose, without ever understanding it. He never defaulted, so the bank never lost money. He never paid it off, so the interest never stopped. Every month, on time, like clockwork. That $10,000 limit he was so proud of. I saw it differently after that. It wasn't trust, it was a farmer widening the pasture. The trap doesn't just catch you, it convinces you that you're the one holding the leash. That's the part that stayed with me. Here's what sat with me longest though. None of this came from an emergency, no accident, no medical bill, no disaster. It was rent, groceries, school fees, the ordinary cost of his life, which means somewhere along the way, His life had quietly gotten more expensive than his income, and the cards were covering the difference every month, without him ever having to say that sentence out loud. The cards didn't create the gap, they just made it quiet. They turned "I can't afford my life this month" into "I'll put it on the card," which is a much easier sentence to say. And I think that's the real story here, underneath the cards and the math. Because the gap doesn't announce itself, it grows in increments too small to notice. Rent goes up a little, the kids get older and everything about them gets more expensive. The car needs something. Groceries cost what they cost now. None of it is a decision. There's no single moment where a person sits down and chooses to live beyond their means. It just happens. One quiet month at a time, and the card absorbs every one of those months without complaint. That's what credit does that cash never could. When you run out of cash, reality shows up immediately. The month simply doesn't work, and you're forced to deal with it right then. When you run out of income but still have a card, reality gets postponed. The month works, everything gets paid, and the problem doesn't disappear. It just moves somewhere you can't see it and starts charging 2% a month for storage. Daniel never had the loud version of the problem. He only ever had the quiet one, and the quiet one had been growing for years. I don't know if Daniel ever sat down and wrote his 10 balances on one page. We don't work together anymore, and I never asked. But knowing how this works now, knowing what he actually is from a bank's point of view, I'd guess his limits have only gone up since then, not down. That's usually how the pasture gets widened. Somewhere in his mailbox, there's probably an 11th envelope, pre-approved. Congratulations, you've earned it. There's no clean ending here, just a guy who still thinks the accordion in his wallet is something to be proud of. I keep coming back to that lunch. 10 cards laid out like a card trick. Daniel smiling, waiting for me to be impressed. The bank will probably send him a Christmas card this year. I don't think he'll wonder why. I'm not going to tell you what Daniel should do differently. If you got more than one card in your wallet right now, you already know this math better than I do. So I'll leave you with the question that stayed with me since that lunch. If the same card can make one person money and cost another person $12,000 a year, is it really the same product? Or is the bank quietly running two different businesses and just calling both of them a credit card? If the number of cards in your wallet is more than one right now, I'd be curious what you'd call it. A system or a strategy or something you're not totally sure about yet. This channel is built on stories like his, real ones, no advice, just what actually happened. Subscribe if you want the next one.